The text message arrived 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. I read it 3 times before I believed what I was seeing. If you're still broke this year, don't come to Thanksgiving. I'm tired of watching you waste your life. It was from my mother. Not my uncle. Not a distant relative. My mother. I stared at the screen while sitting alone in my apartment, a 1-bedroom place above a laundromat that smelled permanently of detergent and regret. My chest felt tight. I called her immediately. She answered on the 3rd ring. Mom. I said what I said, Ethan. Her voice was cold. Colder than I had ever heard it. You can't be serious. I'm serious. I stood from the couch. What happened to you? What happened to me? She snapped. What happened to you? You're 38 years old. Every word felt like a slap. My father had died 4 years earlier. 3 years after that, my construction company collapsed when the owner disappeared with investors' money. Everything I'd built vanished. My savings. My retirement account. My house. Everything. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't irresponsible. I was rebuilding. But apparently none of that mattered anymore. You know what happened, I said quietly. I know your brother owns a business. I know your sister has a beautiful home. I know they're moving forward. I swallowed hard. And me? Silence. Then she said something that shattered me. I don't recognize the man you've become. The line went dead. I stood there staring at my phone. For the first time in my life, I felt unwanted by my own mother. And I had no idea that the message wasn't the worst thing she was hiding. Not even close. Over the next few days, I tried convincing myself she was just stressed. Maybe she was having a bad week. Maybe she didn't mean it. Then Thanksgiving planning started in the family group chat. My sister Olivia was discussing recipes. My brother Ryan was organizing seating. My mother replied constantly. Laughing. Joking. Sharing photos. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just told her son not to come. Nobody mentioned me. Not once. I watched the conversation for 2 days before finally leaving the chat. No one noticed. At least nobody said anything. That hurt more than I expected. A week later, Ryan called. Ethan. What? You coming for Thanksgiving? I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it wasn't. Ask Mom. The silence told me everything. You two talked? I nearly dropped the phone. You knew? Ryan hesitated. That hesitation changed everything. You knew. Ethan. You knew. I didn't know exactly what she said. But you knew enough. Another silence. Then he sighed. She's been acting strange lately. Strange? Yeah. That got my attention. What do you mean? I don't know. His voice lowered. She's secretive. About what? I don't know. That answer would become the most common answer I heard for months. I don't know. Nobody knew anything. But everyone knew something was wrong. A few days later, I drove past my mother's house. I wish I could tell you there was a good reason. There wasn't. I just missed her. Pathetic, right? A 38-year-old man driving past his mother's house hoping to see her watering flowers or checking the mail. Anything. Instead, I saw something strange. A black SUV sat in her driveway. An expensive one. Definitely not hers. A man in a dark suit walked out of the house carrying a leather briefcase. My mother followed him to the porch. They shook hands. Then she handed him an envelope. My stomach dropped. Who was he? What was in the envelope? Why had she never mentioned him? The man drove away. My mother looked around nervously before going inside. For some reason, that bothered me. The nervous glance. As if she didn't want anyone seeing. Especially me. That night I couldn't sleep. The image replayed endlessly. The lawyer. The envelope. The secrecy. Something was happening. Something important. And I was being shut out. A week later, another clue appeared. Completely by accident. I stopped at a grocery store after work. While checking out, I saw my mother's car parked near the pharmacy entrance. I almost went inside to say hello. Then I noticed she wasn't alone. She was standing with Olivia. My sister looked upset. Really upset. My mother hugged her. Then handed her a thick folder. Olivia started crying. Mom wiped away her tears. The two of them looked around before walking back inside. I sat frozen in my truck. Why were they hiding things? Why hadn't anyone told me? And why did it suddenly feel like everyone in my family knew a secret except me? That question followed me home. The next morning I called Olivia. She answered after 4 rings. Hey. What's going on? What do you mean? I hated that answer. Everybody suddenly became actors. What were you and Mom doing yesterday? A pause. Too long. Nothing. I laughed bitterly. Right. Ethan. No. Don't. I rubbed my forehead. Just tell me the truth. It's not my place. My heart sank. Not my place. The worst possible answer. Because it meant there was definitely something to tell. What isn't your place? More silence. Then she whispered something strange. Mom loves you. I frowned. What? Just remember that. The call ended. I stared at my phone. Confused. Angry. Hurt. Why would she say that? Why now? Why after Mom had practically disowned me? Nothing made sense anymore. Then Thanksgiving arrived. I didn't go. Just like my mother asked. I spent the day eating takeout Chinese food while watching football alone. Around 6 o'clock, Ryan posted a family photo online. Everyone was there. My mother. Olivia. Ryan. Their spouses. Their kids. Everyone smiling. Everyone happy. There was one empty chair at the table. My chair. And sitting on that empty plate was a folded card. I zoomed in. My pulse quickened. My name was written on the front. Ethan. Why would my mother tell me not to come? Then save me a seat? I stared at that photo for nearly an hour. The more I looked at it, the less any of this made sense. And the next clue would make me believe something far worse. Because 2 days later, I found a receipt that convinced me my mother wasn't just hiding something. She was preparing to betray me. And when I discovered who she was meeting behind my back, I became almost certain I would never forgive her. 2 days after Thanksgiving, I found a receipt with my mother's signature on it, and the name printed at the top made my blood run cold. It wasn't a grocery store. It wasn't a doctor's office. It wasn't a bank. It was an estate attorney. And according to the receipt, she had met with him 6 different times over the previous 3 months. I found it completely by accident. Ryan had stopped by my apartment that afternoon. We were watching football when he realized he'd left something in his truck. As he stepped outside, his phone buzzed on the coffee table. The screen lit up. MOM. A text preview appeared. Don't tell Ethan about tomorrow. Not yet. I froze. My stomach tightened. Ryan walked back inside before I could process what I'd seen. "What was that?" I asked. His face immediately changed. "What was what?" "Mom's text." He looked away. That was all the answer I needed. "You're hiding something. Ethan." "What are you hiding?" Ryan sat down heavily. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he sighed. "Mom asked us not to tell you." My heart started pounding. "Tell me what?" "I can't." "Why?" "I promised." The anger that had been building for weeks finally exploded. "Everyone keeps saying that." I stood up. "Mom sends me a message telling me not to come to Thanksgiving. She's meeting lawyers. She's hiding things from me. Olivia's crying in parking lots. You're getting secret texts." Ryan looked miserable. But he still wouldn't answer. And that made me think the worst. Maybe I was being cut out of the family. Maybe I was being erased. Maybe my mother had finally decided I wasn't worth saving. 3 days later, I got another clue. And this one hurt more than all the others combined. I was working a late shift when I stopped at a gas station. While paying for coffee, I noticed a familiar car parked outside. My mother's. I almost smiled. For a moment I considered walking over. Then I saw who she was sitting with. Olivia. And the estate attorney. The same man from her driveway. The same man whose name appeared on the receipt. The three of them sat together at a corner table inside a nearby diner. Talking. Reviewing papers. Signing documents. My chest felt hollow. Nobody had invited me. Nobody had called me. Nobody had even mentioned it. I sat in my truck for nearly 40 minutes watching them. The longer I watched, the more convinced I became. Whatever they were planning, I wasn't part of it. That night I barely slept. Memories kept replaying. Mom teaching me to ride a bike. Mom staying awake all night when I had pneumonia. Mom cheering at my high school graduation. The woman who had always been in my corner suddenly felt like a stranger. And I couldn't understand why. The next week things got even worse. Olivia stopped answering my calls. Ryan became distant. Mom rarely responded to texts. Every conversation felt forced. Short. Careful. Like everyone was following instructions. Then came Christmas. The invitation arrived in the mail. Not a phone call. Not a text. An actual invitation. Formal. Cold. Inside was a handwritten note. "Hope you'll join us." Nothing else. No apology. No explanation. Just 5 words. I stared at it for a long time. Then I threw it away. 3 days later Mom called. I almost didn't answer. "Ethan." "What?" The silence lasted several seconds. "I heard you aren't coming." I laughed bitterly. Why would I? Another silence. Then she said something that stunned me. "Because I want you there." I gripped the phone. "Really?" "Yes." "That's funny." "Ethan." "No, Mom." Months of pain poured out. "You told me not to come to Thanksgiving." "I know. You've been lying to me." "I haven't lied." "You've hidden things." Silence. "You're meeting lawyers behind my back." "Nothing." "You're sharing documents with Olivia." "Nothing." "You've got everyone keeping secrets." Her breathing became shaky. For the first time, she sounded scared. "Ethan. Just tell me the truth." "I can't." That answer broke something inside me. "You can't?" "No. Or you won't." The silence gave me my answer. I hung up. For the first time in my life, I hung up on my mother. Christmas came and went. I spent it alone. Again. Then January arrived. And everything exploded. Ryan called me one morning. His voice sounded panicked. You need to come. Come where? Mom's house. Why? Just come. I drove there immediately. When I arrived, every family member was already there. My uncles. My aunts. My cousins. Olivia. Ryan. Everyone. The atmosphere felt tense. Heavy. Like a storm waiting to break. Then I saw the attorney. Standing in the living room. Holding a folder. My heart sank. I knew exactly what this was. A reading. A distribution. A family announcement. And somehow everyone knew except me. The attorney cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming. I looked at my mother. She wouldn't meet my eyes. That hurt more than anything. The attorney opened the folder. And that's when I finally lost control. I want the truth. The room went silent. My mother slowly looked up. Tears already filled her eyes. I deserve answers. Nobody spoke. Months of suspicion erupted all at once. You pushed me away. My voice cracked. You excluded me. Tears filled my eyes. You made everyone lie to me. Ethan. Mom whispered. No. I shook my head. No more secrets. I pointed toward the attorney. Just say it. The room felt frozen. Tell me you've been cutting me out. Mom burst into tears. I had never seen her cry like that. Not even when Dad died. Not even at his funeral. The attorney closed the folder. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then my mother looked directly at me and said 7 words that changed everything. 7 words that instantly shattered every theory I'd built over the last 4 months. 7 words that made me realize I had been completely wrong. I wasn't protecting myself, Ethan. Tears streamed down her face. I was protecting you. And then she revealed the truth. The truth behind the lawyer. The receipts. The meetings. The secrets. The Thanksgiving message. The empty chair. The hidden documents. Everything. And the moment I heard it, I wished I could take back every angry word I'd ever spoken. Because my mother wasn't preparing to abandon me. She had been preparing to say goodbye. The medical file slipped from my hands and landed on the floor. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. I couldn't. My mother's words echoed in my head. I have 6 months left. The room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. I looked around at my family. Ryan was crying. Olivia was crying. Even my Uncle David had tears in his eyes. And suddenly I realized something terrifying. Everyone had known. Everyone except me. I looked back at my mother. No. My voice barely worked. No. She nodded slowly. The attorney lowered his head. The silence confirmed everything. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was real. My mother was dying. I felt sick. For months I had convinced myself she was betraying me. For months I had been building a case against her. Every secret. Every meeting. Every strange conversation. Every clue. I thought they all pointed to one thing. Rejection. But I was wrong. Completely wrong. My mother reached for my hand. I didn't want you to find out like this. I couldn't even look at her. The guilt was crushing me. Why? The question came out broken. Why didn't you tell me? Tears streamed down her cheeks. Because I know you. I frowned. She squeezed my hand. After your father died, you stopped living for yourself. The room remained silent. You carried everybody. She looked at Ryan. Then Olivia. Then back at me. You helped Ryan when his business almost failed. Ryan wiped his eyes. You paid Olivia's mortgage when she was behind. Olivia broke down crying. And after your company collapsed, you still worried more about everybody else than yourself. I stared at the floor. Because she wasn't wrong. Not about any of it. I knew what would happen if I told you. Her voice shook. You would have dropped everything. I swallowed hard. Of course I would have. I know. She smiled sadly. That's why I couldn't tell you. The room blurred through my tears. For months I had believed she didn't love me. The truth was the exact opposite. She loved me so much she was trying to protect me from carrying another burden. Then she revealed what the attorney had been helping her do. And somehow the guilt got even worse. The attorney opened the folder. Inside were documents. Pages and pages of documents. Legal papers. Property transfers. Investment records. Insurance forms. The estate plan. But what shocked me wasn't what my mother was leaving behind. It was who she was leaving it to. Me. Almost everything was going to me. I stared at the documents. Confused. No. The attorney nodded. Yes. I looked at Ryan. Then Olivia. Neither looked surprised. My stomach dropped. The Thanksgiving message. The secret meetings. The receipts. The documents. The lawyer. The crying. The hidden conversations. Suddenly everything made sense. My mother hadn't been choosing them over me. She had been preparing them. Preparing them for her decision. Why? I whispered. Olivia started crying harder. Because she knew the answer. My mother smiled through tears. Because you need it. I shook my head. No. You do. No. Ethan. I couldn't accept it. I wouldn't. I don't want your money. She laughed softly. You sound just like your father. That nearly broke me. For a moment it felt like Dad was in the room. Like he was standing beside her. Smiling. Then my mother revealed the truth behind Thanksgiving. The truth that haunted me for months. The truth that made me feel worse than anything else. I told you not to come because I knew you'd notice. I frowned. What? My symptoms. The room became silent again. She took a slow breath. The treatments were making me weaker. I felt my chest tighten. I couldn't hide it anymore. Tears filled her eyes. And I wasn't ready for you to know. The memory hit me instantly. The empty chair. The folded card. My name. Mom smiled. I spent Thanksgiving crying over that empty chair. My heart shattered. Ryan handed me something. A photograph. The same photo from Thanksgiving. Only this version wasn't cropped. I looked closer. The folded card sitting on my plate had been opened. Inside was a handwritten message. My hands shook as I read it. No matter where life takes you, there will always be a seat for you at my table. Love, Mom. I couldn't breathe. For months I had treated that empty chair as proof she didn't want me. In reality it was proof she never stopped loving me. I covered my face. The guilt was unbearable. I thought you hated me. My mother immediately grabbed my hand. Ethan. I looked up. I could never hate you. That sentence destroyed me. Because suddenly every clue meant something different. The lawyer meetings weren't about excluding me. They were about protecting me. The hidden documents weren't betrayal. They were sacrifice. The secret conversations weren't rejection. They were preparation. The Thanksgiving message wasn't cruelty. It was fear. Fear from a mother who wasn't ready to say goodbye. For the next several months, everything changed. I spent nearly every day with her. We drank coffee together. Watched old movies. Looked through family photo albums. Talked about Dad. Talked about life. Talked about everything we should have talked about years earlier. One afternoon we sat on her porch watching the sunset. She looked peaceful. Tired. But peaceful. Then she said something I'll never forget. People don't always hide things because they don't love you. I looked at her. She smiled. Sometimes they hide things because they love you too much. I still carry those words with me. Months later, when she finally passed away, our family was together. No secrets. No anger. No misunderstandings. Just love. The kind of love that survives mistakes. The kind of love that survives grief. The kind of love that survives goodbye. Today Ryan and Olivia are closer to me than ever. Every Thanksgiving we set one extra place at the table. Not because we're sad. Because we're grateful. And every year we place Mom's handwritten note beside that empty seat. The same note she left on my plate. The same note I almost misunderstood forever. No matter where life takes you, there will always be a seat for you at my table. Whenever my children ask why we keep an empty chair, I tell them the truth. Because one day I learned something important. The people who love us don't always show it perfectly. Sometimes fear disguises itself as distance. Sometimes sacrifice looks like rejection. Sometimes the clues point in the wrong direction. And sometimes the person you believe has betrayed you is actually breaking their own heart trying to protect yours. That was the truth my mother carried. And it became the most important lesson of my life.